Welcome to the Act Out Podcast. I'm your host, Adam Tomlin. Today's guest is the host of the Lethal Venom Podcast, Noah May. Let's roll the tape. Noah, how are you, buddy?
I am doing good. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, man. I kind of told you a little bit before we started talking. I'm from Georgia, and so whenever I saw the Auburn tiles, I was like, man, I'm gonna have to talk to Noah.
Yeah, I am Alabama born and raised here.
Where can you tell us what you do now currently?
Yes, currently I'm a full-time podcaster. I have a bachelor's degree in journalism, and I've been using a lot of my degrees, been kind of going into podcasting, which was not the original plan, but it just seems to have worked out that way. But I do podcasting full time. It's just my full time job that I do. And yeah, I host 3 podcasts, but the main one that I really focus on is Lethal Venom. That tends to be the most successful one, and the one that I have put a lot of hard work in. That's really, it's the one that's kind of blew up.
Man, speaking of blowing up, like I feel like every time I see you on Instagram, there's another episode coming out on Lethal Venom. Man, you must be the hardest working dude in podcasting.
There's a way more other people that work way harder than I do, so I wouldn't consider myself hardworking, but I try to pump out as many episodes as I can. You know, it kind of gets too stressful at times where you're just like, oh, I don't know if I can handle all this. So I try my best to get as many episodes as I can out.
Do you have do you have a set schedule where you release like every Monday, Wednesday, Friday or anything like that? Or is it just kind of whenever you can get them done?
I don't really have a schedule because I think if I did that, would put a little bit more pressure on me. It pretty much ranges weekly. I do at least post at least one episode a week is kind of my goal. Sometimes I can post multiple episodes in a day, and then sometimes I might post one and then not post for 2 days, and then one comes out 2 days later. So I don't really have a set schedule. It kind of gets a little too nerve-wracking, and it kind of just gets a little too overwhelming for me.
Definitely get that. My wife helps me out behind the scenes. So if it weren't for her, like I think there probably would have been maybe one episode of the Act Out Podcast, and then it would be over and done with. But you said that you studied journalism at Auburn. What was the game plan whenever whenever you're in school? What were you going to do? Graduate? What was your plan?
So the original plan was I wanted to go into more of the entertainment side of journalism. I didn't want to do the kind of the news route, news station reporter or anything like that. After I took a few classes at Auburn, I kind of learned that was just not what I wanted to do because of just kind of some of the behind the scenes and the assignments that we had to do for the classes was just like, it was all one man show. And I thought, I don't think I will like this. So
And now you do podcasting.
Yeah, well, it's a little bit different. I don't have to worry
I didn't mean to
about.
interrupt you.
You're fine. It's not like setting up a camera. Like this is kind of how they did it. I think for most news stations, what I generally thought was you would have the main reporter and you would have a camera guy with you, kind of a 2, maybe 3-man show. We didn't do that necessarily. We did more of like solo things. So I had to set up the camera, I had to put the microphones on, and I had to do all the work. And it was just not a fun thing I personally didn't like that because it took too much time. And it was too stressful because you had to get everything done. And it was just weird to have kind of like, you're setting up and they're waiting for you to get set up and so was sitting and waiting. And so I was like, I don't think I won't like doing this. So I decided to just do the more entertainment route where it was kind of more radio interview style journalism that I would do. And so the plan after graduation was to work at a radio station, but I thought if I can work at a news station and just get that experience behind the scenes, I'm fine with that as well. Coming to find out, trying to get a job as soon as you graduate was difficult. Every job that I had gone to wanted experience. And of course, I did not have the experience.
Mm-hmm.
So it was just kind of a losing battle of trying to get a job with no experience. And it just didn't work out. But podcasting for me was kind of a saving grace. I didn't know really podcasting could be a form of journalism. I didn't really think that. And so when I was looking up, it's like, a lot of the skills that I had learned had gone into podcasting, like interview style, having more kind of like the writing scripts kind of. And there was just a lot of aspects from the classes I took at Auburn that kind of went into podcasting. So it eventually went out in the end, but podcasting was kind of like, was going to be more of a hobby than a job at this point. But I'm real happy of how it turned out.
Yeah, man. I mean, I would say so. It seems like you kind of like, podcasting is a pretty natural segue from the journalism and doing the radio, and you get the entertainment aspect of it, and it seems like you get to share your voice, which, is that something that you've always like wanted to do?
I was always shy growing up. So when people even heard that I was going into journalism, they were like, you go into journalism? It was just, a lot of people were a little skeptic about it because of just how shy I was and how I just was always kept to myself. And they're like, you're wanting to go into a career where you're going to be out and like your voice will be out in public and you're going to talk to a whole bunch of people. So it was just a thing. And I thought, well, yeah, but I also was really shy. It actually helped break out of my shyness a lot now. I can kind of talk to people a little bit more better. I have moments where shyness comes in, but being able to have my voice kind of heard was beneficial since growing up, no one ever wanted to hear what I had to say or at all. So I was very happy to finally have my voice heard and have a podcast where people could listen and feel heard and listened to.
Something that you said really stuck out to me, and that was that like growing up, you didn't feel like people wanted to hear what you had to say. Was that like peers?
Yeah, it was more my classmates that I went to school with. My whole class was just really jerks to me. They were bullies towards me and everything. Yeah, anytime I tried to say something, it was kind of like that thing of, is someone talking? Do I hear a noise? That's literally how they kind of acted towards me, and that's kind of how they treated me. And so that's kind of where a lot of my shyness comes from was, well, they're not going to hear what I have to say, and they're not going to listen to what I have to basically have an opinion on. So I felt very ghosted by my classmates, and the only people that I really had in my life that really listened to me at the time were my parents. They were the big supporters and main support system that I had. And so other than them, if I didn't have them, no one would have heard what I had to say. So being able to have a podcast now that has listeners and has people listening and tuning in, it just feels it's odd for me to have that sensation because growing up, I didn't have that prior. So it feels real nice to finally be able to have people listen to what I have to say. This feels real good.
Man, first of all, I'm really sorry that you had to go through something like that. Like, no kid deserves to feel like like no one wants to hear them in the first place. But whenever you go through a situation like that, there's sort of two different routes that you can take. You can kind of make it harden you and make you jaded, cynical, and you kind of turn into a bully, and then you try to destroy people, or you take that and kind of have, I guess, some empathy for other people and be like, I felt that way. I don't want anyone else to feel that way, and then go that other route. What makes you think that you went the route of like, I want to, I want to be a difference. I want to make sure that no one has to go through what I just did.
I think that it's something secretly that a lot of people have gone through, that they never get that chance to really open up and share what they have gone through and experienced. So I wanted to be kind of the spokesperson for those people that are silenced by even family members, from friends, other family, just everyone in general. I just wanted to have a voice and have people see people that you do not have to stay silent, that you can open up and you can talk to and share your opinions, that someone out there will listen and that they will find they'll be happy to listen to what you have to say, and they won't judge you. They won't tell you that what you're saying is complete and utter crap. It's just that you have a voice that needs to be heard. And I've heard a lot of people too in the past, and since I've been vocal, a lot of the friends that I have now have really praised me for being so open and honest. I even have had some of my immediate friends too, I met in college have said that, I've seen a huge change in you from being so timid and just really kept to yourself to now you're open up and you're less shy now. You're more vocal about your opinions. So I've heard people say I have seen like a huge change in it.
Oh man, I'm so torn between going to the change aspect or kind of going a little bit further back, man. Your story is just you just got too much to you, man. So whenever you make that decision of like, I'm going to do, excuse me, I'm going to study journalism. I want my voice heard. It seems like though you had made that choice, but you were still kind of living a little timid, kind of like living with the same lessons that you had learned from the bullies in school. How did journalism and podcasting kind of help you kind of move past that?
They both helped me kind of break out of my shell. I knew that when I went into this field, I knew that the shyness had to be broken. I knew that I can't be shy to be in this field. I was real passionate about it. I was real like, okay, I had to really tell myself, okay, look, you are going into a field where you're going to have to be on camera. You're going to have to talk to strangers. You're going to have to talk to just regular everyday people that you'd never met. You can't be shy when you're doing this. And it took it took some time to get used to, but when I finally did, it just broke through and it just really shined too. I went from basically only talking to people that were in my immediate circle to opening up and having more friends online, as friends kind of add me and talk to me as friends on Snapchat and all these places. I would actually talk to a lot more random people that were outside of my immediate circle and outside of my people that lived in my hometown. It was just a lot of baby steps that I had to do. I started speaking up a little bit more in classes in college too, of like raise my hand, try to be a part of the conversation. So there was just baby steps that I took to help better myself and help kind of break out of that shyness. It wasn't easy at times, but it really did work out in the end, and I'm really proud of the progress that I made.
It takes so much courage to take that very first step, because your brain can come up with a billion different reasons why you should wait until tomorrow. How did you get over that?
After I kind of graduated from college or high school, I was right in the middle. It was right when the pandemic had started. I was a COVID child. So I was, of course, we didn't have the typical graduation thing that most seniors probably get to experience or had experienced. A lot of my friends that I had throughout high school kind of just dumped me after graduation. They were just tossed me out, and I got very lonely during that time, and I was tired of being by myself. So I kind of just added people off on social media of like, well, let me just add random people to see if there's any change in anything. And slowly enough, I met some good people and some people that treated me like trash too, that I just had to let go. But it took some time, but once I was able to finally get to that point of being open and honest with people and be able to meet new people, it just came real natural to me. So that was kind of the starting point of breaking out of my shyness, was opening out, reaching out to other people that I had never met and just trying to have a conversation with them to be friends. So that helped a lot with my shyness and has really made it easy for me to be able to be open and honest with people.
I mean, just listening to your story, it seems like you were almost destined to be a podcaster, because what was that? What was the step? It was reaching out to a stranger and being able to have a conversation with one. And for someone who had, I guess, such a hard time feeling like they wanted to be heard by like their neighbors, or like the people that are supposed to be closest to you,
Right.
to kind of not get that. But then there's but then there's the stranger that's like, "Hey Noah, how are you, buddy?" Hopefully that was a like a powerful enough moment where you're like, you know what, I can move forward.
Yeah, and it felt good to be able to have like friends that actually talk to me every day that didn't leave me in the dust and kind of left me in dirt to be stepped on or ran over with a car. It was just like, it just felt really captivating to me. It made me kind of my mood better.
Oh yeah, man, I'm sure. That to be able to find a community, that's one of
Mm.
the like core things that a human is just like programmed to do. And so that's actually something that I've noticed a lot, like in talking with different folks, is it's having there's a common theme of having a very hard time of finding your tribe or finding your sense of community.
Mm.
What what was it what was it for you that kind of helped you form your community once you started reaching out to strangers? What were some of your values that you kind of like, I'm going to base my community around this?
That's a good question. I think for me, it was just kind of honesty, really. At that point, I had been suffering from mental health for so many years, and I kind of wanted it to be stemmed off of mental health things, to be honest. I kind of
Mhm.
wanted it to be a way for people that if they experienced any mental health issues that they could open up. And I was kind of like the therapist, kind of how I was kind of like my own therapist. I was doing it for free of, having people saying that if you need someone to talk to, you have a place here. That was kind of the steps that I took at first to kind of benefit from that. And that's kind of how I met a lot of friends that had similar backstories as me that were pretty much quiet, and they suffered from really severe mental health issues at the time, and no one really ever had their attention or gave them a lot of day to talk. And so that's kind of how I made my community, was open, honest opinions that you wouldn't be judged for, that you would be able to share it and not get ridiculed for what you're about to say. That's kind of how I stemmed my community around, and I really grew and kind of was really, really popular at the time.
Yeah, man, I can imagine. So it sounds like those sound like great ideals and great values for any community. And I'm just blown away that, like you could have, gone through what you did, but then you still like you somehow still made the best of it and really, really grew from it. Excuse me. You had said something earlier about struggling with some mental health issues. Have you had to go to therapy?
Yes, I was very anti-therapy at the time and
Yeah,
first
me too.
beginning because of just how it was portrayed on TV and in movies. It was just really portrayed very poorly. Of the only people that you see at therapy offices are cuckoos. And it was just
Hmm.
basically someone that could be like have an imaginary friend talking. They have multi-personalities. That's just kind of how
Hmm.
I perceived therapy as.
Yep.
But come to find out that that was far from the truth. Um, I didn't start going to therapy until about 2021, 22 was when I started going. So I was kind of late. It was a little bit later than I probably needed to. I went to a therapy session in 2021 time, and it was with a woman, and I just was like not clicking. It just
Yeah.
wasn't. I was in that mindset of, okay, you can't tell me what to do. I'm not going to listen to what you have to say, which I learned quickly. That's not how therapy works. That's completely not how that goes. It was just a weird thing. So I never went back to her. But then after my mental health had gotten so severe, I thought, okay, I caved in and went to therapy, and there was some things that helped, some things that didn't work.
Mhm.
I have had multiple therapists too that have all done stuff differently. So that's been kind of a factor in that as well. But in the end, it ended up working out pretty well. Was able to heal a little bit from it, but I've done a lot of self healing with a lot of self therapy that
Mm.
I've done. That seems to be more beneficial than therapy itself, but therapy was a really great place to start, and it really just helped me with some parts of my life.
I am very similar train as you. I did not think that that therapy would be beneficial for me. At first, it was that I thought that therapy was basically where you had to be basically schizoaffective disorder in order to, in order to really need therapy. And then after that, I was convinced that I didn't need therapy because I knew exactly why I did the things that I did. I was just completely powerless to stop them. And so I just assumed that a therapist, I would lay down on a couch, and then the therapist would just ask me questions, and I would like give them answers, and like basically just verbally jujitsu them around the room, and there would be there would be no benefit to it.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until I had my son Camden. He'll be 3 in March. Whenever he was born, I realized that there were patterns that I was going to repeat from my childhood, and I was absolutely powerless to stop those. And so I was like, you know what? I'm a lost cause, but maybe I can get some help for Camden, and it'll be a little bit easier for him than it was for me. And it wasn't until like probably 6 to 9 months into therapy that I kind of had like a change of kind of like a perspective change. Where like, you know what, I think I want to be able to like work on myself for me instead of just for someone else, you know?
Yeah.
What you had said that you had done some self healing, and that was more beneficial than actual therapy. Can you kind of get a little bit in the into your self healing journey?
Yeah, a lot of things that really helped for me was the podcast. Actually, was a lot of when I first started doing the podcast. This was before I got on Podmatch, and this was kind of before I started doing interviews. I did a lot of solo episodes at first, and this was talking about my mental health. I even did an episode about my classmates and just how they treated me. And after I did that episode, I just felt so heard. I just felt like a huge weight got lifted off my shoulders because I had so much built up anger and hatred towards them of how badly they treated me, that it felt really good. I thought, and I had been to therapy so many times at this point, and even was at a psychiatrist at the point. I thought this was the most beneficial thing I've ever received from even all the therapy sessions. This was like the biggest thing that kind of got a lot of my anger out. I felt just so much relief after that. I felt so much happier. I was just like, oh my God, that feels so good to really be able to finally say my honest opinion about them and have the truth out there. And then there were some other things that I had shared too.
Is that where Lethal Venom comes from? The name Lethal Venom? From that feeling? You sandbag it. I love it. Okay. So as you were saying that, I was like, Lethal Venom, of course.
Yeah, it kind of stems from how the truth hurts, and how people, when they hear the truth, it can sometimes be harmful and lethal to them. And that's how venom is to humans. That's kind of how the truth can be. So it 100% stems from that saying. And so when I was sharing all this, I was honest. Now, when it came to censoring and names, I did censor everyone's name. I didn't want their name out on the podcast for people to go and give them hate. Also didn't want a lawsuit, but I wanted to keep everything that to where I would know who I'm referring to, but other people would not. And
yeah,
I kept it very private and really protected and everything. I'm wanting to do an episode, kind of do it with my teachers as well. That's an episode that I am currently in the process of working on. But I did kind of one that just was like school and general, but I didn't really do a deep dive into like the teachers themselves. So that was kind of going to be like a separate episode there. But I just felt so much relief, and I just knew that coming on this podcast and just venting and telling my honest opinion, really, it was the best medicine for me. And I am very happy that I have a platform where I can do that.
Yeah. That is, oh man, I love your story. Like there's something about it. It's like, it's very resonating, but I was wondering whenever you were doing that episode about your, about your classmates, don't you still live in your hometown, right?
Unfortunately.
And do a lot of the folks that you go to or that you went to school with, do they still live, live around there as well?
Some have moved. I don't know. I really don't really keep up with them.
Yeah.
I do follow them on Instagram because, I feel like Instagram's kind of like the more like fake follow and like you just want to be nosy, as well as on Facebook. To my knowledge, I think some of them still do. I know majority of them stayed here. I know some of them did actually go off to college. One went to somewhere in Pennsylvania to school. Someone went to North Carolina, but a lot of the students actually kind of stayed in the state and they went to either Auburn or Alabama, JSU, some of the more big colleges around here. One girl that I know graduated from Alabama, moved to Texas to be a doctor. So I know she's moved out there for work. But other than that, everyone else has pretty much stayed around here. That is maybe about within kind of a circle distance from here. But I was staying in Auburn, and I unfortunately had to move back home because of financial issues and just having money saving problems as well. So I wanted to stay in Auburn, but I ended up having to come home just due to financial reasons. But to my knowledge, I think everyone for the most part has stayed around here, but I'm not too sure.
Yeah, Center sounds a lot like Cartersville, where like if you would have asked me that question, I'd be like, well, there was so and so they went to like Valdosta State, and then there was so and so that went there. It's just we're like because it's so small, where everybody went. So just you saying that, I was very fondly reminded me of Cartersville. But why I'd asked you that though is like after you'd released that episode, I'd wondered even if you were kind of like careful with like censoring names, if you kind of caught any flack or if anybody came up to you and was like, "Hey, man, what's up?" Like I saw that or listened to that episode.
That's a really good question. Personally, have not received any messages from anyone in particular that has said, was this directed at me? Or I've not had anyone that said, was this directed at so-and-so? I'm still waiting for that moment because I know that it's going to probably happen sometime down the line. But I did kind of send a message to them and say, hey, I made an episode about you. And I think that's what I got. I think a lot of them kind of got that message and listened to it themselves, but they just have not said anything towards me. So I don't really honestly, to God, know what their reaction to it has been or was. It's still been a mystery. I'm kind of surprised that I haven't really gotten a lot of messages from it because I feel like a lot of the dreams that I've gotten for that episode have come from my classmates that live around here. So I don't know. It's just been a little odd. Kind of was a little surprised of how. Now I did have some people that kind of did follow me after that. I think because once they learned that their name could have been possibly mentioned, I think they did text me about prior to it coming out of like, did you talk bad about me? And I just said, you just have to listen to it. But since the release, I've really heard nothing. It's just big crickets really. So.
Yeah, I was wondering about that, like because if someone came up to me and was like, there were things that you did that like really that really hurt me, I would want to know now so that I could try to apologize. But I think pre-therapy, if someone came up to me and was like, you contributed to to this like experience that I had, I don't think my ego would have been able to handle that, and I think I probably would have been very defensive and either like gaslight you or tell you to toughen up or something. I think like it wouldn't be it would have absolutely nothing to do with you. It's totally just on on the insecurities that they have.
It's just weird to think that, how the second that I would say, oh, by the way, I made an episode about you, that it's been so quiet. I thought I would be getting messages every day after that episode came out of like, is this directed at me? Who are you talking about here? And it's just been silent. It's just been really odd and surprising to me.
Did you want any reaction from them, do you think?
Yes and no. I really didn't do it for them, but I thought, you know what? I am putting like honest opinions about them out there. And there were some hints where I think if you went to school with me, you would know who I was referring to at that point. But to the general audience that listened, they would not know who it was. I'm even surprised at how I got really honest and, you know, like very specific about my opinion, what some people still had their name censored, but gave Easter eggs and clues about who I was referring to that I've not even had people be like, so you were talking about so-and-so here. And I don't know. It's just been really, really odd.
Yeah, I'm sure. And I'm glad that you didn't, it's clear to me that you didn't make that as a revenge thing, or, you know, like I think you would have had a much different answer, you know, with me asking you if you wanted them to say something back to you, if it were about revenge. It seems much more along that kind of like that therapy or the self-help route for you, which is probably more of a healing feeling than trying to get revenge on somebody.
Yeah, 100%. If I 100% wanted to do the revenge route, I would not have censored any name out. That would have just been my way of revenge of like coming back for them. But I wanted to be the mature one and keep their private information private. And there's even times when I was editing the episode too, this is where I spent about 3 or 4 days editing this because I did not want any name to get blasted on the podcast. I didn't want to miss a name. And there were even when I was listening to like the parts that I had already edited that I was like, who am I talking about here? I had to literally get like my yearbook out and at times had to follow along and be like, okay, this is who I'm talking about. And then after I did it while editing and recording or editing the podcast, I realized that I had skipped the name. And I thought, damn it. Well, I thought, oh, well. So there was one person that didn't get mentioned in the episode that I completely skipped. So I was so mad, and it was close to the beginning too. It wasn't like, oh, I could just do this at the very end. No, it was at the very beginning, and I was just like, I'm not redoing it, so this won't be mentioned. But another thing is too is that with the podcast episode, how I formatted it is I kind of went down the line in my yearbooks. I mean, it wasn't like sporadic. I mean, there was a clue that of who I was going to be talking to at this point, which of course halfway through gets messed up because I skipped someone. So it kind of works up to a point. But yeah, it's just been really surprising to not hear anyone say anything. And I think that just kind of further proves my point of they just don't really care about my opinion or they just think that I'm not seen. It just kind of solidifies it.
That sucks that, you know, that kind of is the feeling that you get. But the good news is it seems like there are plenty of other people that wanted to listen to you, though. So, yeah.
Oh, yeah. That was like one of my, at the time when I first recorded and realized it was my most listened to episode, because it was just like, most of my episodes were like, at the time, I think about 30, 40 minutes, and even sometimes they were like 20 minutes. And I have to exactly look. I think the episode was like, I think when I recorded it, I think I recorded for 2 hours, and I thought, well, that might be a little bit too long. So I tried editing it down, but I have to exactly see how long it was, because I think people saw the time. They're like, whoa, he had a lot to say.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was about an hour and 35 minutes. That's kind of how long the episode ended up being. And I think when people saw that, they're like, this is going to be juicy. And so they heard it and they were just like, oh, yeah.
Well, at first I was thinking maybe that you had done that episode and then that kind of like became, you know, your podcast. But had you already started your podcast before you did that episode?
The funny thing about it is that I had, let's see, I actually had just celebrated my 1 year anniversary of Lethal Venom. I had my first episode come out a year ago, 2 days ago. So
Oh,
I did that.
congratulations.
Thank you. Posted my first episode on February 24th. Then the next episode I posted was my mental health story. And then the third one that I did was my dating experience and kind of just my dating world. And then the fourth one was the classmates. So I was very freshly new
Mm-hmm.
at podcasting. This was kind of even before 5 episodes were done. So this was a very early on episode that I did. This is when more of my solo episodes came to be, and kind of how I started doing my solo journey before I got into interviews and Podmatch. And so that technically you could consider it being before it blew up, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
But that was kind of one of my early episodes, and I was really proud of how it turned out.
What made you decide to start doing the interview route instead of just doing the solo?
It's kind of a funny story. At the time, I was working at a trampoline park, and I quit about a week in. I was like, it's not for me. I can't do kids. I'm sorry. Can't do it. I literally was like, bullet. I'm ready to have a bullet in the gun. I was so no, I can't do this. So I initially kind of got fired or kind of quit. It was kind of like I quit, but also got fired. I was so sad about it. I was like, I'll just go home and cry about it. But no, I came home because I had not been home in a while. And this was post-graduation. So I didn't really have I didn't need to be back in Auburn for anything in particular. So while I was home, I got an email from a guy that worked at Podmatch. And I think everyone that is on Podmatch knows Alex Sanfilippo is his name. And he basically emailed me and said, hey, I came across your podcast and loved the message, kind of the theme of it. And then he kind of told me a little bit more about who he was, said that he worked for Podmatch and that Podmatch was a podcasting network that features podcasts from all different sides and kind of just like a platform for podcasters to kind of thrive and build off of. And at the time, I had previously gotten job offer scams, or I had gotten a lot of similar emails like this in the past from just regular jobs that turned out to be scams or turned out to be hoaxes. But I thought, but this one's for podcasting. I thought, it just seems too good to be true that a podcast offer would be coming up towards me. So I did a lot of research on Podmatch before I even said, yes, I would love to, just to see and feel if what I was about to do was legitimate, was a good choice. And I saw a lot of 5-star reviews. I really didn't even see a 4-star review. And so I thought, this must be a legitimate thing. The thing that kind of stuck out to me was you could potentially get paid from having guests on. That's what kind of struck and kind of grabbed my attention was, I thought, paying. I thought, so it's kind of considered like a job offer. So I thought, I'm just going to give it a try and see how I like it. It was only $6. And I thought, you know what? If I don't like it the first month, it's $6. It's not a big deal. Joined it and just immediately fell in love with it. Alex has been such a huge supporter for the podcast. He has such an incredible network of people that I have met like yourself and have had so many guests on the podcast that have been through Podmatch. He just has such a great network. It is such a good platform. He really has a good business going. And I have really enjoyed it. It was probably the best decision I ever made. And it luckily came at a time that I was just desperate to find something work related that I was really passionate about. So I was I was so thankful that it came to be. And I was just so happy that everything finally started to fall in place.
What was the transition like going from solo to doing interviews? Was it difficult for you to transition, or could you just jump right in?
If I had not taken a lot of the journalism classes, nerds would have been gone. Being able to do interviews, it was kind of the same thing as podcast or journalism. You would have to send a message to the person that you want to do an interview with. Then they set up a time. Then came to having to set up and prior to the interview, talk to them, have the interview done. So, I mean, that aspect was in there. If I had not gone into that field and I started doing journalism, doing podcasting, and let's say I was an engineer, then it probably would have been like a different thing for me different world for me to be thinking of I don't know how much I would like this. So if it wasn't for journalism, it probably would have been more stressful to me. But luckily, since I was able to have that kind of background in journalism and interview style and skills, it was an easy transition for me.
I think my biggest misconception of being a podcaster was that I just assumed that these were just going to be conversations, and it would be just like as if you and I were having dinner together right now with no camera or anything. Like first time sat down with somebody, I was like, okay, no, this is like actually like work here. I'm like analyzing, having to think questions. It was a lot more tricky than I thought. What was your biggest misconception?
Oof. I don't really know if I had any misconceptions. I think coming from like a journalism background, everything just kind of seemed like journalism to me. It is work. Like, you kind of, when you're doing the solo episodes, you kind of think of it more as a hobby and kind of more of like carefree. You're just like, I can BS it and, see how it comes out in the end. When it comes to interviews, you have to be a little bit more professional and you have to be kind of more aware of what's going on. You can't just really space out and kind of not pay attention. You kind of have to think of questions. You have to have everything planned out beforehand. It just was a lot more planning than I had initially thought. But it's been really good to see how well the podcast has done since then. But there are probably, I think if I didn't have that journalism background, there would have been a lot more misconceptions. I thought, I don't like this. I think a lot of people tend to also come on the podcast like in interviews in top clothes. They come on with suits and ties. Some people come on with work dresses on, and it makes me look like a slob because I literally have come on the podcast with a white t-shirt on, with a V-neck to kind of go all the way down here, and I just look like a complete slob. And that was kind of a misconception that I got, was that, I thought people would just dress casual for interviews. No, some actually do dress up. I'm just like, I've told people this is just my style of clothing. This is just what I wear. I'm at home. I'm comfortable in my own clothes. You only get to see me from the chest up, so it doesn't really matter what I have on. But that's kind of a big misconception I guess would have, is that people actually kind of dress up for these interviews.
Your podcast is very much rooted in authenticity. So I think it would be disingenuous of you to be wearing a 3-piece suit right now. It would just, whereas if you were hosting your podcast, it just there'd be a little bit of a disconnect there.
Yeah, I think it would be a little bit more stressful and more like firm. I've come on podcasts too that even before I started doing the video aspect of podcasting, I can have a guest come on that says, "Is this video?" And they're like, I said, "It's just audio." And they're like, then they take clothes off. I've had men take their suits off to get more comfortable on the thing. And I'm just like, okay, I thought we were having a strip show right now. It's like, I can't take no more of my clothes off. But they got more comfortable, I think, when they heard audio. They didn't have to worry about physical appearance. They didn't have to portray themselves on camera. Which, even if it was, I don't care if you get comfortable. I mean, you see me in this kind of shirt and this kind of clothing. It's a laid back show. I'm not strict. I'm not wearing a 3-piece suit and jacket, tie, button up shirt or anything like that. My hair's not styled with mousse in it to have more of that more professional appearance. Literally, I have come on podcasts with my hair sticking up. It's like, I look like I come over here like a slob, and I love doing that because it makes people, I think, even when they see that, they're like, oh. They're like, okay.
To me, it would put me at ease. I think I would be like, if I had never been on a podcast before, I think I would be kind of expecting I'd probably be in my Sunday best and like, all right, here comes the host, and then I'd see, oh, okay, I'm going to be able to be me. I think that whenever you're yourself, it gives whoever you're with permission to be themselves as well.
Yeah, and I've told people, I said, be open and honest. I mean, be yourself. Don't pretend to portray an image that you're not known for. This is a podcast where you can be your true self and not have ridicule or any backlash from it. I'm not going to make fun of you for your honesty about your beliefs and things. This is your time to share your opinion and be your true self.
Mm.
And a lot of people really loved that. They have just really come out of the woodwork and has been like, I appreciate that so much of being able to finally talk about what I want to talk about. And it just feels real validating to know that there is a podcast out there for them that is just like that, where they can be their true selves and that they can open up and be honest with themselves.
Is there an episode or two that you're like most proud of?
Oh, absolutely. Last year during my first season, there was a lady that I had interviewed. Her name was Adrienne Caldwell. She's on Podmatch as well. She had the most captivating story I've ever heard out of everyone that I had. She just had so much trauma in her life growing up. And her episode was the first one that kind of made me teary-eye a little bit. And I normally don't get teary-eyed when I hear more of the human stories at all. I just haven't really been that person that if I'm watching a movie and if like a person dies or there's a very sad moment, I don't cry. But yet, if an animal breaks a toenail, I'm like,
yep, the waterworks will come. The exact same, yes.
I become this hot mess, and then people are like, "Get a grip." So, but this was the first episode where I kind of got really emotional from her interview because it was just it just tugged my heartstrings because I felt so much sorrow for her. I just felt so sorry for her, and she told it honestly. She did not hold back. She just said it like it was. It was just the honest truth. That was probably my favorite episode from there. And, I think my other one would have to be either the classmate episode or my own mental health episode because of just how raw and how honest those episodes are. My favorite episodes tend to be the ones that are the most honest and most kind of like raw. Those tend to be my favorite ones because I know that they're just pain that's just finally getting unleashed on the podcast. Those tend to really be my favorite episodes.
I'm taking mental notes, so I'm going to be a guest on your podcast. Actually, I think we'll be recording in a couple of weeks. So I'm taking some notes. I got to be I got to crack your top 5 at least. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just messing around. Man, I have had like a blast like hearing your story. What is the thing that you are most proud of being a podcast or having your podcast?
There's a lot of things that have really come with the podcast that I never imagined. I think just finally having a successful job that I really love. The most thing I'm really proud of is just how mentally well I am right now. This has been the happiest I've been in a very long time. This has been kind of the longest stretch of happiness I've had with the podcast. It has just really helped my mental health, and I'm so beneficial for that. And when I finally was able to say, yes, I'm a full-time podcaster, having to worry about job hunting and putting that in the past was so beneficial to hear, and just finally just felt so nice to hear of like, I don't have to worry about jobs anymore. I don't have to worry about possibly working in a job that I'll just potentially hate a week or two in. I don't have to worry about coworkers that maybe are troublesome or bullies to me. It was just so much. And then all the accomplishments that I've had from the podcast too. It's been like being in the top 10 for months on end continuously has been so rewarding. And just having so many people on the podcast, the list can go on, but there's just so much that I'm proud of with the podcast, and it's how many good opportunities have come from it.
I think my favorite part of your story is that the voice that was kind of put down and dismissed, through your childhood is now the voice that is paying the bills and making a life and making a difference as well, man. I'm really happy for you.
Yeah, it's so funny because everyone in school, I don't think would have imagined myself being a podcaster. They never would have expected this from me. And that's kind of just the thing too about them, that it just really is the difference between me. I was real focused on my school studies, and this has just been the difference between high school peers and college peers. A lot of the people that I went to Auburn with that were in a lot of my journalism classes, they have so much success in their lives. I mean, I know them. I had one girl that was in my classes that moved to the Midwest to work in a news station out there. She got a job offer from them of wanting to come out there to work. I've had other people that work with, I think, with the school itself. I mean, they have more professional career milestones than the personal stuff. Like, the only things I've ever really seen from my classmates have been pregnancies and marriages, weddings, all like before 24. I'm just like, okay. So I see that a lot of my classmates stayed in the bedroom a lot during that time, but there's just a line between like who I was originally hanging out with versus who I ended up hanging around with. And I was kind of fit with the college peers too. I worked hard. I was a full-time college student. I mean, there was a year that I did spring, summer, and fall for classes. So from January literally to December, I was doing classes every day. I think in total, I had like a month break just to be able to graduate on time. I graduated like a semester late because it was something that happened at my community college that we won't get into today because I'm mentally well today. But they basically screwed up with my classes, long story short, classroom or like class error that they did. So I actually ended up having to go to Auburn an extra semester, and to not actually go for an extra year, I had to take summer classes. So I was really hardworking with my school. I was like dedicated. I focused a lot of my time on that, and it paid off. It really paid off. And it's just, I'm so happy of how everything has turned out. It just was, I never imagined in a million years how I would be sitting on podcasts like this. I would be host of a podcast as well as be a guest on podcasts too. This never crossed my mind. If you told me this a year ago, that I would be on podcasts, that I would have 300 plus episodes recorded, I'd have been like, huh, that's funny. But it's just crazy how much a year has changed for me. And I'm so happy and grateful for all the opportunities I have.
Where can folks find you?
The best place that they can find me is through my website. It's noahspodcast.com. There's a blog that I do write on, so people can see blog posts from me on just random things. All three of my podcasts are on there, and socials and where it's all available, and everything like that's available on the website. So feel free to go check that out as well. You can see my other appearances on other podcasts as well on the website too. Just like this podcast, this show will be added to the website. So when it comes out, you'll be able to have a clickable link on there to take us right to the episode. So there's a lot of things on the podcast and on the website to check out. For socials, to follow me personally, you can follow the podcast on Instagram and TikTok at Lethal Venom Podcast, and Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. It's at Noah's Podcast. And you can connect with me on LinkedIn as well. It's my first and last name, Noah May. Person with a mascot of a tiger, that's me. If you see
Weagle.
Yeah, if you see a tiger mascot beside me, that's me. So that's easy to find. Or if you see someone's hand dumped in like a big bowl of water, that's me as well. So feel free, but all these links and everything's on the website.
The link to your website will be in the description of this episode, so folks can check you out. But not until this episode's finished, guys. Noah, man, I am so thankful that you sat down with me today, and I'm really excited to sit down with you in a couple of weeks, I think.
So we're looking forward to that. But yeah, I enjoyed being on the podcast today. Thank you so much for having me. Loved this conversation. Just loved the casual flow. Loved the format of it. I thought it was a really good podcast.
Thank you so much, man. Noah, thank you for acting out with me, bud.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a complete honor.